Good afternoon. Welcome to EduSet Network. As you know that development is required in each and every sector and in every sphere. So, and we will discuss in today's lecture the role of social sector and national development and the major role of social factor, and we will discuss how it successfully progressed in India. So on your behalf, I would like to welcome Dr. Satish Kumar, Assistant Professor of Political Science in Merit University. Welcome you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today's theme of discussion is about the role of the social sector in the national development. So here we would like to identify and make it very clear the conceptual themes. What is the national development? And secondly, which sector is categorized as a social sector? And after that, we will try to explain the exercise of social sector in India since independence, its success and failures. Has it been successful completely? How there are certain gray areas, certain problematic areas in the social sector. As we all know, since the invention of the state in modern terms, the primary responsibility of the development lies in the hand of the state. The progress, the needs of the people to be met, and the lifestyle and the livelihood issues of the larger section of the society is to be made by the state machinery, and as we call it a state, the functions of the state. But quite often, and it is the experience of not only in India but many third world countries and European countries as well, that a state has failed to deliver the required rate of the development in the world. It has failed to deliver the required needs of the people of the deprived section of the society in many parts of the world. The major problems of education, health, livelihood issues, and likewise many other factors have become a grey point, a point which a state must think over it. When we analyze the role of the state in the process of development after independence, we read that and we understand that India has adopted a mixed economy, but it has a very hard tilt towards socialist structure. And the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Nehru, was very much influenced by the erstwhile Soviet Union's economic structure of centralization. And that is why the many bodies which were initiated in India for the national development, and Planning Commission is one of them, for centralized affairs of the state. But what we see after 64 years of independence, the promise was being made in the parliament that the 6% of the GDP will be allocated for the educations. But do we know the recent figures of our budgetary allocations for the educations in 2011 and 12? Even it is less than 1%. The promise of 6% is still far behind the line of desirability and the promise which were being made. The same way, the health sector has been neglected by the state. The UPA government, when it came into power second time, it promised that the allocation for the health will increase from 3 to 4% of the GDP. But once again, its share in the GDP is less than 1%. Then how do we expect that a state will fulfill the needs of the people, especially the people who are unable to meet their required needs? And obviously, that is the weaker section of the society, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, the poorest of the poor, and many other segments of the society. Child and women are the major victims of deprivations. When a state fails, then who will deliver? Which are the structural alternative for the development in any part of the world? It is not merely India, but I'm talking in the larger section of the human society, Western and many developing countries in the world. So here we would like to analyze the role of the social sector and its success and failures in the Indian context. We would also try to analyze the comparative analysis of the social sector in India and other third world countries and European countries as well. And in the last, we'll try to scale the speed of the development of the social sector and the relevance of the social sector in the post-new economic world order, in which India has been categorized as one of the economic powers of the world. As we understood very clearly that the social sector has become the best alternative for the development once the state failed to deliver on major fronts like education, health, livelihood issues, and many other. Here it is also important which sector is called the social sector and how it is different from other sector. The second name of the social sector is non-profit organizations. It means the basic aims and objectives of the civil society organizations, CSO, it is also known as an NGO, is not to make profit out of its contributions and exercise, whether the contribution is mental, physical, or otherwise. Once again, I would like to draw a comparative analysis of CSO as a professional outfit or a socially committed, a group of devoted people for humanity. Quite often, when we talk about the social sector, when we talk about the NGOs, many people believe that it is social devotions and commitment matters merely, like the contribution of Vinoba Bhave, contribution of Mahatma Gandhi and many other stalwarts. Many people have given everything for the society. They have done for the betterment of the people of the deprived section of the society. But it is merely a handful of the people. The work culture, the line and length of the CSO, not only in India but many other parts of the world, have changed in the last few decades. A very strong base of professionalism has evolved in CSO. They hire professionals. There are certain entrepreneurs as well. They develop the ideas and with firm determinations, they get the work done. So how it is different from other organization? The difference is here. Like there is one company and there is one NGO. The purpose of the company is to make a profit out of its exercise, our service which delivers it to the neglected, our weaker section of the society. Whether it is running a school, or running in hospitals, providing other basic livelihood needs. But when the same work is done by the CSO or NGO, its purpose would not be to make profit out of its exercise and contributions. Its purpose is to empower the people, to make the people stronger, sustainable, and enable to fight against the poverty and live a very dignified life. So the ideas and concept of the CSO, civil society organizations, which is known as NGO, is very good. And that is why after independence, when the state started failing on the major fronts, especially after 70s and 80s, NGO started in the larger scale of its work, especially in the most backward states of India, like Jharkhand, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and many other areas or districts where the livelihood problems are more acute. So now again there is one major factor which we need to identify and understand very clearly. How does it function? What is the structural setup of an NGO? From where it gets fund and how does it operate? How does it benefit the people? These are the factors which we need to understand very clearly. As we all know that the primary need to establish an NGO, we have to go through the 1867 Act of Society Registration, that is known as the Society Registration Act. And through that act, we establish with the formality of a few people. There are two systems in which 7 to 11 people are required from the different states, and we establish with its main objectives. these are the main objectives of this particular organizations. Generally, they keep the objectives larger, so they can work on any themes. They can work in any part of the country. So somewhere the CSO is a regional, it is a state specific, its areas of operation is determined, located in particular state, whereas some of the NGOs, they are international, they work in Bihar, they also work in Jharkhand, they also work in Jaipur, UP and other parts of the country. So how do they work? And how do they get or receive the fund? There are two ways of receiving the fund. One, the major partner of donating funds is the government of India and partially the state government as well. It goes through, there are different ministries, Ministry of Women Empowerment, Ministry of Child Welfare. There are, in every ministry, there is one segment is for the civil society organizations. The second is foreign contributions. As we all know that there are multilateral agencies which are working in the many parts of the country and many parts of the world as well, like Oxfam, ActionAid, USAID, Ford Foundations. There are many organizations which provide monetary help to the CSO. The question could be raised, why do they provide fund to the Indian NGOs? What is the purpose? To have a very clear understanding that this world survives through the help of many philanthropists. There are many people in this world who are very rich. Some of them may call stinking rich. They have a lot of money, but they hardly concern about the poorest of the poor, those who live near to the house. But there are a handful of the people, not only in India but all over the world, they have the pangs for the poor. They cannot bear a child who remains without food, a child who remains without education, a child who remains without health care. So their urge, their pain, and their concern is to, whatever they have, they give it to the poor. So how do they give it to poor, and how it should reach to the right person is a difficult task. But one individual who is living in London, and he has a lot of money, and once he has read in the newspaper or he has seen a very pathetic conditions of a village who remains, many families of that particular village is going without food. So the pain has created in one individual after watching a news, and he wants to devote money, he wants to give it to reach out to that concerned family. So it may not be possible for one individual to fly off and give it to them. He goes through a CSO, a civil society organization which are working in that area, in touch with that people, aware of the issues. So they get into touch with that particular organizations. Then the particular organization applies for the fund and he receives. But there is one bottleneck. The bottleneck is FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. It is not open for all NGOs. We can start a shop, we can start an organization and start getting fund from the any foreign agencies. There is a problem, and the problem has been seen in Hawala case in India. Many terrorist or international organizations, they have opened the NGOs and they started getting fund from the many countries which are working against India. So what happened? The Indian government has tightened the screw on FCRA Act. We will talk about the debate and the demands of the civil society organizations, how they are advocating for making the flexible rules on FCRA. But to have an understanding, how does an NGO receive funds from the foreign donors? The debate we will also discuss when a particular structural foreign agency devotes money to a selected NGOs in India or many third world countries. They have their economic and political agenda. With that baggage come down to India, and they implement the project according to their requirement, not on the conditions of the requirement of the people for which this fund has been allocated. So we will discuss the debate, but for the proper understanding, we have discussed the role of the state in the development. When a state fails, the civil society organization becomes the second best alternative for the procedure of the development. Many prime ministers of the world, many prime ministers of the different countries, in the Indian prime minister, quite often recognize that the developmental issues are not merely the responsibility of the state government or central government, and in fact it cannot be done. The huge requirement of the more than 100 crore peoples of the India might not be fulfilled by the government. So it needs a positive intervention of the CSO in addressing the problems of the people. Now here we would like to discuss, this factor has been made it clear that how do they work, how do they receive the funds. Now we will try to analyze how do they get a structure and how do they get into work for making the people aware of the many issues and how the help is being translated. We have seen the one way of making the country more developed, that is the role of the state. When the state establishes a school where the kids of the poor and the rich, they study in the school, they get educated, they get service and live a better life. The purpose of the development is very clear. Means what we are today, our next generations, the next year should be better. The next to next year should be much better. And that is the cycle of the development. If we are going stillward, we are going downwards in the economic terms, our social terms, our political terms, then it cannot be categorized as a development. So what we have, if we have 2 shirts for this summer or winter, in the next year, when we can manage 4 shirts and 5 pants for one individual, then we can say that our life is much better. What we used to eat last year, we can manage better foods for our family, then we can say that we have developed. Our mud houses have been replaced by big houses, then we can say we have developed. When we have moved from a bicycle to motorcycle, then we can say the economic conditions of our family has become better. The illiterate parents have been replaced by educated kids. Then we can say that our family has developed. So this is the way the nation develops. One individual with a few individuals in the family, and then it accumulates into the block, and block into the state, and finally into the nations. So that is the meaning of the development. There is a debate in India that our GDP growth in the last few years is moving from 7 to 9%, but still more than 35% of the population in India are living below the poverty line. So the economic calculus of the development is a matter of debate. Many people still disbelieve of the genesis of the new economic policy and its impact. But we will not go into the technicalities and the sphere of the debate, the positive and negative factors of the globalizations and liberalizations, but we will restrict ourselves to the role of the states and its success and failure. So here the major component, how does it work? It should be very clear that the civil society organizations, it is organization which work among the people. They are in the direct touch with the community, affected community and the areas. They are in tune with the problems of that particular area. Like if there is a village which is the victim of economic deprivations, a crops failure, where the farmers are badly affected, they are in massive debt, and they are on the verge of committing suicides, as we might have heard in Andhra Pradesh, and many farmers, they have done so, committed suicide in the large scale. Here, the responsibility comes on the shoulder of the civil society organizations, that they start working among the people at the primary level. They create a self-help group. What does it mean by self-help group? Self-help group, it means that the purpose of making a group self-sustainable. It is a very famous dictum of the development, that donation is not the solutions of the economic problem. If you want to donate some few money to one individual, money will siphon off within few days and months, and the people will become on the same platform where he has been a few days back. What is the permanent solutions of the development of backwardness? Is to make the people self-sustainable, empower the people. The meaning of the empowerment is to create a system, developed a system in which an individual, according to his or her capacity, start earning. He or she is not dependent on particular CSO, our government, or any other organizations for its fund. So how does self-help group work? They create a number of self-help groups with a few numbers, like a self-help group of 7 people have been created, and likewise other in that particular area 20 groups have been created of 8 to 10 people. That depends on the number. Now all the people of that particular area are landless farmer. They are the very poor. They are daily workers. They earn 80 to 100 rupees per day. Now what the NGO will do, they conduct a meeting when they are not in the work, maybe after 6 or 7, when their work is over. Tell them to contribute 5 rupees per day out of their earning of 120 or 130 rupees. If the 10 people are there, they accumulate, collect 100 rupees or 85 rupees or 90 rupees every day from one group. And there are more than 20 groups are working in that particular village or that area. So then the amount goes up to more than 1,000 rupees a day. After 3-4 months, or maybe in between, what they do, they, through the very collective and democratic way, they identify that particular group is willing to invest in particular professions, like they want to buy a tractor, they want to buy a bullock cart, or they want to buy hen, they want to state a murgi palan, goat and other things. So the role of the NGO is to work as a coordinator and facilitator. As we all know, with the impact of the CSO, the government has decentralized the functioning of the banking system. Earlier, what was the system? And still it is widespread in many parts of the country. Poor people get involved in debt of money lenders. There are many people, thousands and thousands of the people in the many parts of the world. In the mid of the crisis of their lives, they take few thousand rupees for the marriage of their daughter from the money lenders. The interest of the few thousand is so huge that during their complete cycle of the life, they become unable to pay off the debt, which the amount which they have taken from a money lenders. So every month their major share of their earning goes on interest. And because of the strict banking rules and regulations of the banking system, they were not providing direct help to the poor people. Why? Because the poor people are not creditable. They may take money, they may take loan, and may not repay them. That was the concept. So later on, when the Grameen Bank and other banking system were started, when the largest self-help group and committees were being formed, they started producing many things. The bank have also come to their doors, and they were willing to provide loans to such kind of people where the credibility has been established with the help of CSO. Earlier, there was one individual, and he was not aware of the economic facilities and benefits of the banking system. The bank was also very reluctant. Here, the major role which was being played by the NGO, that it has connected to the two poles, a financer and the person who were in the direct requirement of the fund. And the process of development started off. The many people got the loan, and they started with the tractor, they started with the goat, they started with the fisheries, they started with the many other things on their own basis with the smaller scale. When a group of people who were living in extreme poverty, because of these ideas, because of the collective efforts, they were started making the money. Once they started making the money, their life become better. So that is the work of the NGO. NGO, like the state, it does not directly provide funds to the poor people in the hands of the poor people. This is 50,000 rupees. Take it, make your house, or buy the foods and eat and forget. What will happen after 3-4 months? The family will be again in the debt. Here the responsibility is to empower the poorest of the poor, and they should become capable of doing their own work, sending the kids to the school. So this is one major development, this is one major success of a CSO which has been seen. Now here again we would like to know why it was India has been selected for the fundings of the international multilateral organizations for the development. It has been realized this fact that after the independence, India is one of the hugely populated country with very low income. Thousands and thousands of people are very poor. Secondly, in spite of the poverty, India has a democratic setup. Thirdly, there is also advantage of the language. It becomes easier for foreign funders to communicate and interact with the people or the professionals. So the many factors were identified to start work in India. But that should be very clear when we talk about the fund. Still more than 90% funding to the CSO comes from the government of India, and less than 10% it comes from the foreign funding, whether it is Oxfam, USAID, ActionAid, or any other foreign philanthropists who want to devote the certain amount of money to the CSO. So still the responsibility which has been decentralized by the state or central government, that certain areas which could be hold, the CSO can do much better than what the state governments can perform. And that is why it has given the power, it has given the responsibility, and only it kept the power in its hand of monitoring. And that is, we will later on we will talk about the corruption and the bureaucratic structure of monitoring of the CSO after delivering its fund. Here, what are the major segments in which we can calculate the success of NGOs in India? The first and the most important segment of its success is education. today we are enjoying the education as a right as a fundamental rights. Fundamental rights means earlier it was under the directive principles. The need and desirability of the states was to educate the people from 7 to 14 years of free of cost. But it was not done in time. And through the tactics, through the pressure of the CSO, the Right to Education Act has become a fundamental rights, and it was attached with the right to life. Secondly, right to food is another landmark by the social sector. Right to health, again, is a widely unpracticed, not properly done by the state, is also in which this CSO has done a very remarkable work. Besides, there are many other emerging problems like crisis of water, crisis of drinking water, the problems of the tribal, the problems of the scheduled caste. There are many NGOs where we can talk about its success and innovative ideas, entrepreneurship have changed the lives of thousands of the people in this country. Where there was no school, the government school was almost defunct. Missionary schools were functioning in many parts of the country on certain conditionalities. They have a certain agenda in which NGOs has done a remarkable work. It reached out to the people. Some of the schools which have been initiated by NGOs, like a club where there is one very successful NGO in Bihar, Nidan, is also working in the different sectors for the education of the poorest of the poor people. They have done a remarkable work. You can see and change, they have changed the lives of the people. One of the very successful story of Nidan in Patna, we might see the hawkers, the problems of the hawkers, and the problems of a downtrodden rag pickers. They are socially boycotted community of the country. They hardly have the respect, but this organization has created a system in which the rag pickers not only get the respect from the society, but their children are running, the children are in the proper and formal educations. So their life is changing. So this work has been done by the NGOs in the different parts of the country. Now, the success story is not only limited to education, as I explained, it has percolated and expanded in the health sector, in the many other sectors, in the empowerment of the tribal people, empowerment of the women. There are many myths. You might have heard about the witch killing in the tribal society. On the social myths have been demystified by the social organization. They try to address the problems. It is not a religion, it is not a social customs, but it is merely a dictatorial terms of the rich people, which they target the weaker section of the society, and a deprived woman is the weakest link of our social segment. And that is why witch killing is prevalent in many parts of the country. Child marriage is one of the social myths are widely perceived in many parts of the country. Sati was abolished through the law, but it was made aware through the practices, through the exercise of the NGOs. So many social evils, many other livelihood issues were being properly addressed. So the flexibility of NGO is much larger. They can reach out to the government sector, to the minister directly, because they are the people who are in touch with the community. If a farmer has committed suicide, why he has committed suicide, an NGO can know better than the district administration which are working for the betterment of that particular district, because that NGO is living day and night with that particular segment of the society. So it also reports to the media. There are many stories which we see every day on television and we read in the newspaper. The digging story is covered by the NGO people and they pass it to the media people. This is a very important, relevant issues that needs to be addressed, and the media people pick up their story and they run their story, and the problem reaches to the parliament and the decision making body, and accordingly they take the decision. So here the responsibility of the NGO is much larger and they have performed accordingly. But now we would like to also trace out the negative point of the NGO. What are the negative points? We have seen the success story. We have talked about the success story of the NGOs in the health sector, in the education sector, in the livelihood issues, in drinking water crisis, our making the society a better place, of bringing the factors of community living, factors of togetherness, making India a better secular state. These are all the positive notes. They have tried their best and they have achieved to a certain extent. But on the failures, there are major negative points as well. The one major negative point is mushrooming of NGOs in India. What has happened in India? Number of NGOs have cropped up. And the motive is not to make profit, but under this motive, a number of NGOs have started minting money. They have also created a bureaucratic structure. Large number of people have been recruited. Huge building is being created through the donations of the foreign funding and government funding. It has become such a wide practice in India that sometimes it has been realized that when they married their daughter, they not only give money, but along with the money, they donate NGOs. Oh, okay, I'm giving you this NGO, and on this NGO you can earn a lot. So this kind of practices is being done by the many parts of the country. So this is one negative factor. Second, there is a nexus between NGOs and politicians and the bureaucrats. When the bureaucrats or politicians, they cannot earn money. On the pretext of earning money, they start an NGO. And he hands over the responsibility of running an NGO to his kith and kin, wives, brother, sister, and son. And the major section of the social sector of that particular ministry goes into the hand of the NGO. All work is being given to that NGO. Okay, your responsibility is to provide medical help to that particular area, and the money is being siphoned off. So this system has been widely practiced in India as well, and that is why some of the NGO has been blacklisted. The third negative point is a project base. When we want to make the segment or neglected part of the society sustainable, and we follow the agenda of the foreign funding, whether it is Oxfam or ActionAid or USAID, they come out in India with a certain political agenda. And there is a political and social agenda or economic agenda. And that agenda becomes more important than the development of that particular area. How is it possible that whether you want to continue the process of development of that area or follow the dictums of the foreign funding agency? So quite often in the lure of the fund, many organizations follow the dictum of instructions of the foreign funding. And that is why the purpose of the development gets defeated. It is not happening in India, but in many parts of the country, many parts of the world as well. Afghanistan is a glaring example. Foreign funders, they have accumulated the funds to restructure the Afghanistan. But the restructuring process is based on the concept of the USA and Britain and other European countries. It is not on the concept of the needs of the local people of Afghanistan. Same thing is happening in many African countries. They come out with a political agenda. They come out with the factors of democracy. They come out with the factors of human rights. They come out with the many other political factors which are the basic connotations, the basic pillars of US, our Western countries. And that contradict the political structure of that country. So it is another very important factor which needs to be noted. Fourth negative point is project basis. When we talk about the area, when we talk about the development of that particular community, it cannot be done in 2 or 3 years. One project is being allocated by foreign funder, our even Ministry of particular department, for 3-4 years. Is it possible that you can make the people enable or empower the people in within 2-3 years? Once the project ends, the exercise of that NGO pause at the moment. The process of development becomes redundant. So the cycle of poverty revert back to the same position where they were 3-4 years back. So the project basis cannot be the solution for the development. It has to be a regular, consistent cycle where we can make a progress. At the last, we cannot negate the factors of CSO NGOs which have done in the last few years. Tremendous job has been done in the sector of education, in the sector of health, and many other positive intervention have been made by CSO. Still they are doing a great work, but foreign funders, they have started withdrawing from India. You might have seen in the last few years, they have shifted their office from India to Southeast Asia, our African countries, because they have started believing that India is no more a poor country. India is no more a developing country. India is going to be the 3rd largest economy of the world. India is a superpower. But the fact remains unchecked. And we still know that on what basis we are talking about the India is the 3rd superpower, where whose population, 35% population live below the poverty line. There is still many people in India, they go without eating in the night. They go without eating for many days. So if the same situation remains, the responsibility of the CSO becomes still relevant to address many issues of the livelihood, which is related with health, education, right to life, and many other factors. With the time, a new issue emerge, the relevance of CSO still becomes much more relevant what it was yesterday or day before yesterday. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for that wonderful lecture. But I want to ask just one question.
Okay.
Is there any caste system that holds back India's development, India's social and economic development in India?
The caste factor is prevalent in India. Caste is one of the, and it also becomes a bottleneck for the development. While working in the very regimented caste dominated society, that has been seen. Even if you go to the scheduled caste area, it is also demarcated on the basis of the caste. This is a particular caste, Dusad, Chamar, and other. So when we start a school, what it happens that the kids of the Dusad, they won't go to the schools of the Chamar, which is dominated by the Chamar community or many other scheduled caste. So the holistic development of that particular big village becomes half done. Means if there is one particular NGO started in a school for all scheduled caste people, but what it happens, since the society is so caste dominated, is caste divided, that other caste people, the kids of the other caste, they do not go and get the benefit of that school.
So actually it is lacking India's development, or maybe it is a main hindrance of
Yeah, at the local level, at the state level, at the national level, the caste is a very dominant factor, which is, and it should be noted that in the negative terms, it is not benefiting the society, but it is holding back the process of development.
Okay, thank you, sir. I hope this lecture must be informative and very interactive for you all. And so on behalf of Dr. Satish Kumar, I would like to thank you all of you for watching this wonderful lecture, and thank you all of you.